Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I'm just getting set up here. Just give me 1 minute. Shrink-a-dink my OBS streaming. Here we go. All right, so I can see the comments here, and welcome everyone. I am happy to see for anyone who's actually come here and was watching my cool video. So today we are going to be learning about how to sew with foam. I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself and my website here while we give everybody a few minutes to come on. So my name is Ariana Bauer. I run Cosplay Sewing School. I have been sewing since I was like 6. And so I just love it. It's been something that my grandma taught me to do, and I've been learning and working for many years. I've always loved costuming. Hello, everybody from all over the world. That's awesome. It's so cool to have you. So I have been, like I said, I have been learning to sew since I was little. Sewing is a forever learning process. And so today what we are going to do is talk about foam. How to work with it, how to use it as a seamstress, because I don't love glue, but I do enjoy some of the things that you can do with foam. So as I have friends who are amazing foam smiths, I looked at what they did and thought, well, you know, I think I could make a corset out of foam if only I could sew it. So I did. Actually, let me get that for you. Be right back. Should have brought this from the beginning. So this is my corset made out of foam, and you can see there is fabric on the inside. Is there no sound? I do have sound on, so hopefully you can hear me. If anybody can hear me, let me know before I continue. Can everybody hear me okay? Can someone put in the chat if you can hear me? All right, thank you. I know it's a little bit behind. All right, so here is my foam corset. This is actually an Ariana black corset pattern. I made it actually just straight off the pattern. No changes, no anything, because I wasn't concerned about it fitting me. This was actually my test to see if I could do this concept. So it actually has lacing holes. Never mind the fact that they don't line up. Like I said, this was a really fast test. I wanted to see if it worked. It did work. This is actually the foam with only heat sealing. And oh, here I can turn that sound up just a little here. All right, that should help everybody. So this has just some basic heat gun sealing and some red acrylic paint. And that's it. That's all there is to it. The only place that I have used glue is on this this top layer, and this is actually just super glue popped in here to be the binding of our corset. So yeah, so this is 2mm foam. We're going to be working with it, and I'll show it to you here. So this is the 2mm foam that I love to work with. This comes from SKS Props. You can get their foam at Blick art stores, which also some people know as Dick Blick. They ship all over. It's like 35 bucks for free shipping, and there's coupons all the time. And they have a bunch of cool tutorials on their website. So, you know, you want to know more about foam, check them out. I am by no means a foam smith like some of my friends are. Like the wondrous Evil Ted, he is the one who kind of got me into this, that I could actually make foam props myself, because honestly I thought if it's sewing I can do it, if it's glue and all the other stuff I'm like no, maybe not. So that's what we have here. So I'm going to go over the materials and stuff here in just a second. If you have questions, yes, this is going to remain live. I have no interest in taking down stuff. I mean, you'll have to watch all the extra craziness in the middle, but that's fine. I may just edit the beginning and the end for my little weirdnesses when the thing started. All right, so what are we going to do? we are going to figure out how to make this foam stable. So the first thing that I figured out, no matter how I sewed the foam, what are we doing when we put a stitch down, even a long stitch? We're essentially making perforation lines. So we had to fix that problem. And by fixing, in order to fix that problem, we have fabric. So let's move to the overhead here, and I'm going to show you guys some stuff. So this is kind of my little kit, minus my sewing machine and iron. So what I have here is some rulers. It doesn't matter what kind of rulers you have, you just need some rulers. Marker, here's a tip. Don't use Sharpie on your foam if you're not painting black over it, because the Sharpie will go through. I'm using Sharpie today because I want you guys to see it well. But honestly, this stuff is amazing. You can mark it with anything from a China marker to chalk to a ballpoint pen. Ballpoint pen is really, really good. That's what the guys who make this, that's what they recommend. And it's really easy. You just press gently. But we're using this just for show only. All right, I have some fabric. This is just cotton quilting fabric. Actually, what's inside of this is an old sheet. So it really just needs to be some sort of densely woven, densely woven, even weave fabric. So cotton quilting fabric, cotton sheets. You don't want to stretch fabric because we're stabilizing. So that's that. All right, so we've got some basic quilting cotton. I've got some fusible web. So this is my favorite brand. I've tried a bunch of different brands. You can use whatever you want that is this type of fusible. You don't want to use glue to do this because different glues might gum up your sewing machine, and that's not cool. So I like the heat and bond. If you do a lot of this kind of stuff, and actually if you do corsets in general, I can do another video at a later point on how to fuse fabrics to your base fabrics to your strength layer to your fashion layer, so you can work with them like a single layer corset. It's my favorite way to work on corsets, but that's a whole nother topic. So this is what I like to get. You can buy it from Heat and Bond, from ThermoWeb, actually in a big giant bolt, which is what I do. And if you go to Joann's, sometimes Joann's has the Heat and Bond, sometimes they don't. It's a thing. So I also have some tearaway embroidery stabilizer. You can also use just white paper. We're going to be using this to protect the foam from our sewing machine. So anything like that. I have some silicone parchment paper, which we are also going to be using to protect our foam and our iron from each other. Just stuff you get in the kitchen. And I have our foam. And I have our handy dandy iron. And if anybody doesn't have a good iron, this Tefal iron, these suckers are like 30 or 40 bucks on Amazon. I will tell you, they survive falling off of a pretty high place when your cat KOs it. And they get really nice and hot and they heat up really fast. I mean, your sewing machine may be your best friend, but your iron is your next best friend. All right, so the first thing we have to do, we need an ironing board. So I'm going to tell you a few things about my ironing board before we get started, and some scissors. This is the world's cheapest little ironing board. If you don't have space for a big one, these are great to get. I get this from IKEA. Now, the trick is, and I'll show you guys in here what I did, is you need to add some extra layers to this of batting, and make sure what you add is cotton batting. So if it's not cotton batting, it will melt, but that just gives you some nice padding. When you get this, you'll actually be able to feel that little metal grate between there, but a little cotton batting goes a whole long way. You can even see I still have the product item on there. All right, and the reason I like this one also is it stands up. You can see, which gives the heat space to come out and dissipate, which is what we want. All right. Here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is cut a little bit of foam. Yeah, actually, I should move that off the table for a second. Here we go. So like I said, this comes in nice big rolls. My ruler here is so I can cut some straight pieces. Let's just go about like that, as I have a stack of random junk just off camera. All right. Ooh, Las Vegas. Hey, my brother lives in Las Vegas. It is hot this time of year. We got married in July, and we did our honeymoon in Las Vegas, and it was nuts. So, I know. But it always rains every time I go to Las Vegas. We always get that one thunderstorm. Although thunderstorms in the desert are really cool. Okay, so we're just going to cut this. Now, what's cool about this 2mm foam, I actually have really cheap scissors that I have right here that we are cutting this foam with. Don't use your good scissors for cutting foam. No. It will actually just ruin your good scissors. So we are just going to be using our cheap paper scissors here. And I'm just going to cut this nice. I'm slightly obsessed with perfect cutting. We could have not done perfect cutting, but I'm just going to show you. All right, a reasonable size. Now, what this is great for, like I said, so one of the things that I kind of dislike is when corsets, when they buckle. So here, I'm going to switch up to me for a second. Here we go. Here. So when corsets, sometimes when you wear them and you like bend, you'll see, I call them sad Wonder Women. So like they're sagging. And so that's what the boning in that corset is for, so that when we sew them like this, we can actually create boning channels either to the inside or to the outside where we can do that, so that we don't have to have sad Wonder Women and sad all the other corseted things, because for some reason designers feel that corseted base stuff, it's like the way to go. So that's what we're doing here. And I do plan to have a new class coming out very soon that will be, it'll be a group session where we'll actually make a foam corset from start to finish. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this foam so I don't make any boo-boos. And what we are going to do here is cut some fusible. Now, I have too much extra. We don't have to waste fusible. That's what's cool about fusible. So fusible has no grain. So one of the things that we can do, oh, look at that. I actually fit it perfect. But let's say this was way off to the side here. You can actually just cut it like this, and then you can take another strip and strip it on so that you don't have to worry about having to waste any fusible. At my place, no fusible goes to waste. All right, so actually, I'm going to grab my rotary cutter because I love rotary cutters. Just don't do this with your rotary cutter. One time I did this and went whoosh and sliced open my finger. So don't do that. Don't be like me. All right, now we've got our piece of fusible. Get rid of that business. All right, and let's get a piece of fabric. Yeah, we'll use all that. And what we're going to do here, the first thing we're going to do is iron this fabric. All right, quick little tip. There's two words we use in sewing. We use ironing and pressing. Pressing is what we do when we work with seams and things. That is where we are going just up and down with the iron. Ironing is what you do when you want to make the wrinkles go out. So right here, I am just going to turn this iron up to cotton, put a little steam on, and we're just getting this nice and flat. Because if we have wrinkles in this now, those wrinkles will stay put later. So just getting plenty of steam on there. And I'm being a little haphazard. You should actually always, when you iron, stay on grain, either this way or this way, because you can actually throw your fabric off grain. But we're just being fast. We're breaking the law. All right, here we go. Now, we have this. I'm actually going to go ahead and fuse to the fabric first. It's a little easier to fuse to the fabric first than it is. And I know we have a lot of extra here. Oh, we'll just go to here. Save a little bit more of that. I'm just being quick. Yeah, so the foam that I get is from Blick Art Supplies. This is SKS Props foam. I'll actually go ahead and put that in the chat. Here, give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so to use this fusible, if you've never used fusibles before, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is the directions they give you kind of suck. They don't work very good. There's some tricks that I have learned over the years of messing around with this. They tell you not to use steam. You can totally use steam. The real trick is to be patient, which is something I am not. So I have to keep telling myself to be patient. So I'm going to start with the middle, and I'm just going to kind of give this some good pressure, and we're going to move there. And then I'm going to kind of go here, and you can actually just leave this off. Oop, don't touch that, it's hot. And just move 3 to 5 seconds. We're going to do, and I start in the middle because that way this piece is secured. And we're just going kind of over here. Yeah, I do a lot of don't do this. Here we go. And then we can turn the iron. And what we're doing is we are slowly just getting this. And when on your edges, you really want to spend some time with your edges. So there we go. And feel free to ask any questions. If you have other sewing questions, because there's going to be some time in this demo, like what we're doing now, where we're kind of waiting, you're welcome to ask those, and I will be happy to answer them. So for any of you late, we are using some Heat and Bond Light and fusing it to our fabric, which we will later fuse to our foam so we can get that into the sewing machine. Now, as you saw, this is hot, so don't touch it. You can kind of waft it a little, but you have to be really gentle, because the trick of this is if you try and peel it while that's hot, it will release itself from the fabric. So if I were to try while it was still super, super, super almost untouchable, it'll come right off. And you're like, why is my heat fusible never work? Because it just comes right off. Yeah, that's why, because you didn't wait long enough. And I tend to do the same thing. So I try to do this. This is what I do. If I'm really in a hurry, I will work on multiple pieces. So I'll fuse something like this, then I'll put this over there, and then come back to this and go. Now we can see we have a few spots where we need to work on it more, so you want to check your edges really, really well. So this is basically parchment paper, by the way, that's on this. So if you do need to go back and reheat some areas, you can use parchment paper. All right, let's see here. Yeah, so fusible interfacing. Here, I'll get some different interfacings out. I'll get my box. All right, while we wait for that to cool. Here is my big box. All right, so all of these are fusibles, all different kinds of fusibles. So the Heat and Bond that I have there is glue. It's actually just glue. We're going to pull this off, and you'll see on there that shiny stuff, that's just glue. Now, other fusibles, like, where's some of my favorites? Oh, this comes in a big roll from Wax Sewing. This is a nice, sturdy, tight weave cotton, and what it has is glue that is already on it. So if I need to stabilize an area, I love to use this for seams. If I'm stabilizing an area, there is glue already on this, so I don't have to go and get some Heat and Bond, put it on here, and then put that on my fabric. So these are just pre-glued. That's what fusible interfacing is. And interfacing is anything that we use inside of our garment. So we have super thick stuff like this, which I use on purses, and I also use this on costumes a lot because it kind of acts like buckram. So that's like a crafty thing. You have different colors and different kinds, but fusible interfacing is a whole class upon itself. So there's the Heat and Bond Light. Heat and Bond makes several different kinds. So we have all different kinds of fusibles. So that's our little aside on fusibles. Here we go. All right, now we have, this is cooled off. You know it's cooled off. Oh, it's still not quite all the way cool. I'm gonna let it go here. So you want to just touch it. If it no longer feels hot, it's ready to go. So buckram is a kind of interfacing, and I don't have any buckram with me, that is typically used in hat making. And it is a kind of, it's a canvas that has sizing put into it. So that is, like I said, a whole nother topic. Anyway, now we're just peeling this off. So you can see this fusible. Can you see how shiny that is compared to here? So that's how we know it's good. And I'm actually looking here for any bubbles. I was not very bright and left some thread in there. Should have taken care of that beforehand. Once it's fused in, it's fused in. And if anywhere comes up, or I think anything is kind of not 100%, I can actually just use this right down there, iron on top of it, wait for it to cool, and peel it off. All right. So we have that. Now, we need to put this on. So we'll go ahead and line this up here. What I'm going to do is just hold it and flip it over. Okay. And I'm going to get some parchment paper because here's the deal. We can always have a whoopsie. The iron can be too hot. Lots of things can go wrong. So to protect our lovely ironing boards and our irons, we're going to put a little glue or a little parchment paper down as a protection mechanism here. You can always use parchment papers when you're working with fusibles too. So let's say that I fuse this whole big piece, something called block fusing, okay? And now I want to fuse a whole bunch of little pieces onto here. If I flip this over, because I'm going to need to work on both sides, if I flip that over, then what's going to happen is I'm going to end up with glue on my ironing board. Parchment paper is your super bestest friend for that. So now we're just going to very ridiculously line this up because I probably should have cut that, but I'm being fast and I'm being lazy. Now I'm kind of looking to see still if this is on grain. I'm not sure that it matters if it's on grain so much, but I like to make sure things are on grain. So I am gonna turn my iron down a little bit to about a 2. And when you do that, you kind of just, you can rub the heat out essentially. You can just put that on a different spot on your board and rub that out. And so what I'm going to do is start from the middle and work this. Now I don't want to be too slow because you're better off with more passes than melting your foam. If you can smell your foam, you're probably putting too much heat. Now your foam is going to want to roll on you. And what I typically do is, while I'm waiting for this to cool, I will get, you can see that foam rolling up there, I will get some sort of heavy object, a large book. Books are usually my go-to. I have such a big library. I have so many books. So you can always put a book or something, and as this cools, that foam will stay wherever we've put it. Here we go. So being on grain for fine weave fabrics, that is, well, there's a couple of things. For even weave fabrics, you can tear, even in a finer fabric. Another thing is to grab one kind of thread, you make a little cut and you grab a thread and you pull, and that will start to, you'll start to see. But depending on what kind of fine fabric you're working with, so if you're working with a really fussy fabric, like a charmeuse or something, oftentimes I pin it to paper. And that keeps my fabric aligned because that stuff is just nuts. It just does not want to stay put. All right, here we go. We have foam. Now, if we pull really hard, we can get this undone. But what you're going to see is if we pull really hard, what you'll find is it's actually going to just rip the foam. So it's not 1000%. And with all fusibles, what you want to make sure is that, oh, you can see, oh, that was where the tape was. With all fusibles, I don't trust them alone. So we're going to sew on top of these again. Now, you can see there's a little glue there, but that edge, it needs a little more. So what I'm going to do is hit this from the top, from the foam side. Now you got to be a lot quicker if you're hitting it from the foam side. And I'm just going to use that parchment paper there. And I'm going to leave this here so that glue stays down here for a second. Yeah, there's so many little tips. See, I've been sewing for so long that there's a lot of stuff that I've just learned over the years that was just, I found out because I did it wrong, and then I did it right. All right, that is still being, let's do that from the other side, because that is still being, it's curled up there. That foam wants to curl up there. Let's go from the fabric side. It will fuse. Now, oh, here's a good spot. We got a bubble here and a little bit of a wrinkle. That is okay because this side is not going to show. If I was using this side, I would be worried about it. A tiny little wrinkle is no big deal because we are only using this as a stabilizer and to make sure that our foam doesn't rip. The whole idea of doing a corset out of foam isn't because you want to have a sturdier corset. It's because you want to paint the outside. And so one of the places I did this was actually, I did a sideshow statue She-Ra, and I can hit this with a little steam too, by the way. The foam will take a little steam. My sideshow statue She-Ra, and I wanted to be able to have the corset body, because that's 80% of the costume, match the exact same color as the rest of my costume. And the only way I felt like I could really do that is if I had painted it, because the whites all needed to really stay the same. So thank you for the subscriptions, by the way. I really appreciate all of the support that everyone has been giving me as of late. I have been going through some internal struggles and some depression, and this just really makes things nice. Now, here we go. So, I've got foam. Now, I might have heated it a wee bit much over here. Yeah, I did. And you can see, because it's too shiny. So there really is a limit to what this will take. But that's okay. When we paint this, we have to seal it anyway, so it's no big deal. So essentially, this is heat sealed. That is not. All right. Now, we are fused. Also, I don't really trust these edges 100%. So when I go back and cut, we're going to trim off the extras off here anyway. All right. I'm going to, so 2 is my wool setting on my iron. You need to have it hot enough to make through the parchment paper. And since the parchment paper, you know, kind of does a little bit of extra there, you can put it at 1. You can always start lower and raise it. You don't have to start at the highest level. If it's just not doing anything, then you can turn up the heat. If it's working, then you don't have to. All right, so let's go ahead. I always put my guard on my roller, or on my doohickey. I can't find the word there. On my thingy here. Before, when I put it away, when I put it down, it's another safeguard setting, because people like me tend to make mistakes. And foam, by the way, it's great to cut with these. Works so good. All right, so see that beautiful clean line there? Now we have foam fused to fabric, which we can now treat like something that we want to sew. Cut this down just a little because those edges got a little melty as I was talking. It's funny how much when you're streaming live, when you talk. So does this step also help with the kind of heat seal? It does. And if you weren't here in the beginning, this was only ironed, and you can see it's pretty heat sealed. There's like 2 layers of red acrylic on here, and those are just hand painted. I put airbrush medium into my acrylics when I hand paint them. It's taken a little abuse, you know, I didn't seal it. There's absolutely nothing extra on this but acrylic paint. This is 2mm foam from SKS Props. And there's other companies, by the way. There's TNT Cosplay. There are several other companies. I know there's like Yaya Han has her line of foam. And here's the difference between all of these foams and what you would get anywhere else or floor tiles. So this foam does not have any additives in it that would make lungs hurt or have any sort of grossness in the air whenever you heat it. Whereas if you get floor tiles, you have to be really careful because those give off a lot of chemicals when they get heated. So I would never do this without proper ventilation if I were not using foam that is designed for crafting. All right, so now we have this. What do we do with it? Well, I mean, if I were making a corset, now I would trace off my pattern pieces, still leave some seam allowances. We can always cut stuff off later. We are going to have some overlap. So I tend to like to use a lapped seam. So you can see here, there are 2 seams here. And that's actually where I put my boning channels in this. So this is sewed to there, and then here is sewed to here. So that created the channel and gave me a space where this is double sewn. All right, so let's get some strips made. So the foam can get as thick as you can still get through your machine. So I have at home a pretty big bubba of a quilter who will, that sucker will go through big leather and everything. I can get 4 millimeters, possibly even 6 millimeter through that. I cannot on my regular home machine. So it really depends. Oh yeah, I'm a safety nut, by the way. So you guys will hear me go on and on and on about safety. That's why with the rotary cutter, I'm like, don't do this. Come back here, put that guard on because, yeah. All right, and like I said, I feel like with foam, the rotary cutter is the bestest of bestest friends because no jaggy edges, super clean lines. I usually just use my stuff that's not very good for fabric, so I'll take my extra rotary cutter because I have like too many handles because I bought them and then I forgot it when I lost them and then I find a tool again because I lose all my tools because, you know, that's what we do, right? We spend more of our time crafting, looking for our tools, than we do actually sewing. At least I know I do. All right, so let's get the machine out. I'm going to switch camera angles here so you can see from multiple spaces. So this machine is an industrial leather machine. Oh yeah, that'll go through bigger foam for sure. All right. Let me just adjust here real quick so you can see into, there we go. All right, so this is a Baby Lock Melody. I am not a super fan of that you have to get the most expensive machine. Honestly, my absolute favorite sewing machines are old school sewing machines that are all metal. They will sew through anything, you know, they will last forever. So I love those machines. All right, so what I have in here is some black thread. This Baby Lock Melody I inherited it from my grandmother when she passed away, and it's a really good machine, and I really wanted to keep her machine, so I actually started using this one in my videos as a kind of a thing to her. So, a few things to talk about our sewing machine when we come in here. If you guys are not familiar, on the bottom of here are something called the feed dogs. And if you take your foot off and you feel your finger here, those suckers are rough. And when you put your foam through there, if you put your foam through this way, it is going to eat your foam. You are going to have tracks in your foam and it's just going to look really ugly. So I always put the foam through up like this, not like this. It's essentially top stitching. So that's the way we're going to roll with it. I have in some black thread here. I would select the thread color you're going to use for your painting. You don't have to because you're going to be painting and sealing and doing all sorts of business. But I just would do that. And if you really wanted to get all of your seam lines and everything gone, you would skin this with a whole nother layer of 2mm foam to kind of like just ease everything up. You can Dremel seams down. You can do all your stuff. That's all foam smithing. That's all extras. We're going to focus on the construction element today. All right, so we have that. I have on a regular foot, just the standard foot. I like to use my one with the clear here. If you have a Teflon foot, you can use that. That does help, just glides over things really nice and easy. You can also put Scotch tape on the bottom if you want a little extra glide. But we are going to protect this a little better anyway. So what we're going to do is use our, oh, where did I put it? This is found in the embroidery section. This is for like embroidery machines. This is tearable. You can cut it, you can tear it. So you can also use paper. So if you don't have any tearaway stabilizer, no worries. Regular copy paper, leftovers. So like I like to use little scraps that I've cut off of stuff because I assemble PDF patterns nonstop. That works too. Oh, we're just going to cut a few strips. We can overlap these as they get into the machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to try that kind of lapped seam deal here. So I'm just going to draw a line where I want these to kind of overlap on each other for lining things up. Now, it's okay to keep these bigger because even if I'm sewing straight down the middle here and I want to keep this pretty, you know, I don't want to add any extra or anything, I can trim this off later. So we're okay. We got extra. All right. Now, another thing here is if you don't want to put this in, if you need to use anything, use clips. Don't use pins. Obviously, pins, I mean, you can pin through this, but pinholes stay. So, yes, tissue paper works really well, too. I just always forget where I've put the tissue paper. So since I have a stack of leftover copy paper that I just kind of keep as my scrap pile, so I just use that. And they also make clear, like, wash-away stabilizer, too, for embroidery, and you can use that. In other words, we're just putting something here that we can get rid of in order to protect this fabric here. All right, so my machine. We are going to use a very long stitch. You know, not like the longest your machine has, but I don't know, I think I'm going to set it to like a 3.5. And we are not going to back stitch. What we are going to do is leave our thread tails on the long side, and we can knot these later, but considering that we're going to have some amount of glue and paint and all sorts of things on this, that's fine. We're going to seal up the ends of these, and we're going to assume that there's some seam allowance here as well. So just leave those thread tails long, and we're going to put this in the machine, and then I'm going to put this on top here, just kind of like that, and I'm going to line that up with the edge of the foot, and we are going to hit start. And you can see she chomps through that just fine. Now this Melody is not the most expensive machine from Baby Lock. This Melody is actually a pretty low end, as you would call it, machine. And it's working just fine. I've done this on $100 machines. I mean, this is just, all of this is in the tricks where you're just trying to cheat the system, right? So now I'm going to lift my needle up here, and I'm pulling from the back. Don't come from the front. When you pull from the front, you have a good chance of doing several things, getting your tension weir and maybe getting your needle. So I'm going to do that. And on the side of your machine, you'll see it here. There's this little weird thing that kind of sticks up. Yeah, I know, low end of Baby Lock, right? I'll show you my other machine that I used to have. Like I said, I would not have purchased this. I am using this machine because it was gifted to me. This was not something that I would have purchased on my own. But there's a little thread cutter here. So there we go. So now we actually have no skip stitches. We have our front. Now I'm going to do here is kind of pull from the sides. There we go. Just kind of protecting this stitch from pulling too much out of whack. This is not my preferred stabilizer. I don't know which one I picked. It's a little thicker. They make thinner stabilizers and thicker for embroidery. There's all different stuff, but yeah, I picked the thick one apparently. It's actually easier to do with paper, I think, but I also use my clear a lot for this because I can just hit this with a little water, spritz, spritz, and it's done. Wow, this stuff, like, this is the really thick stuff. I don't know why I picked that. Oh well, I did. There we go. All right, so we now have a stitch. We sewed with foam. And we could come back in here and stitch again. Now I'm going to show you. I am pulling really hard. This is not coming apart. And you can see it, I'm shaking. This is not coming. Oh, in here is a universal 80. That's it, 80-12 universal. That's all I have in the needle. Nothing big, nothing crazy. I have Gutermann standard poly thread, and that's it. That's all that's in here. So this actually doesn't require a lot of effort on the sewing machine's part. Now, I'll show you what happens if we don't put the paper in. If we try and sew through here without the paper, and let's make that stitch small, and let's see what happens. Now she's fussing because see how it's sticking? Ah, I don't want to do that too much because we're going to have a problem. Yeah, now we made a little mess. See, that's why you don't want to, that's why you want to use that foam. So see what happened? And now that foam is completely cut. You can see that. That's why the long stitch length. So we sewed with foam, guys. It's that easy. Oh, that I have a treadle that was gifted to me by my great aunt. It's been put down through the generations that I am really hoping to restore at some point, maybe this fall when it's not so horribly hot outside. And that way I want to get that, because every time I watch Bernadette sewing with her fabulous old machines, yeah, I have a thing in my heart for old machines. This new stuff, you know, I'm going to tell you, I'm actually going to go grab a machine that I used to use in here. I'm going to tell you, you don't need all the bells and whistles. What you do need is a machine that weighs something. So this lady, this is my Juki. It is, here, I'll show you so you can see the number. They sell this on Amazon. This is really cheap. It's like less than $150. I have used this machine for years. Here's why I love this machine. First of all, it's barely computerized. If I turn this on, all I can do is change the numbers. Second, it has everything that's needed. It has the ability to do a straight stitch, a zigzag stitch, and a stretch stitch, which is nice. That's really all you need. It can do buttonholes, but you know. So, yes, make your stitches longer if you're having trouble sewing, for sure. Yeah, so that's all you really need. So, but what else is important? This is heavy. It has metal parts inside. You know, that's what you're looking for, is in the guts of the machine. The sewing machine itself has not changed in 100+ years, other than now we have CNC-based machines that use G-code to do fancy embroidery stuff. But that's it. So the difference between these and these is really just in the computer and electronics, and the engines are very similar actually between the two machines as well. So yeah, so if anybody has any other questions, that's really the demo. Here, let me move here. Yeah, so that's really it. It's not very hard. I went through a whole bunch of trials and tribulations. I sewed every which way possible until I thought, well, darn, what happens if I fuse it to fabric and then I can just treat it like fabric? Well, that's what I did. So we made fabric, we made foam, you know, like, oh, here, fabric, foam, you know, that's it. And so the trick is long stitches. Make sure that you have some paper on top, and, you know, just don't sew too fast. Sometimes you want to slow down, especially if your machine sounds like it's, like on these boning channels. When I did them, some of them, because when I added them extra, we're going through multiple layers, you can, no, you can do zigzag stitches. So, we can do that real quick. So if you want to butt two pieces next to each other, you can put them in here. I'll do a demo of that real quick. Actually, we have time. Let me show you how you can connect two pieces of foam with a zigzag. That actually was something I forgot to show you. Let's do that. Let's just cut two pieces here. Oh, let me use the ruler so that they actually line up properly. It was a very good question. Oh, helps. If I make that, okay, there's one, And, too much stuff everywhere. It's like when you're on camera, you have this tiny bit of room. And I'm used to having this big, huge table. You know, like with everything on it. All right, so let's put these pieces like this. Now, this is where having clear stabilizer is like everything. You know, so I'm gonna put a little piece of masking tape to hold these together, actually. So I don't, so the tension, that's the tension of the stitch. So I'm letting this machine auto tension it. You can always loosen your tension or tighten your tension as per needed for a stitch. So, all right, let's do this here. So I just put a little masking tape, top and bottom, you know, so when we put our stabilizer on top, those don't want to go away from each other. There we go. Here we go. Now I'm not going to sew through the masking tape because that makes my machine really, really gummed up and icky. All right, turn that on. That would be helpful. Now I'm going to put this on the widest zigzag that I have just for illustration. All right, and I'm going to make this a nice long stitch. And I'm going to slow it down just a little so we can see it. Oh, you know what? I did not dial in that I am on zigzag. That helps to press the button. Yay! So, oh, there's the scissors. There we go. We'll just go back over here. Start here again. All right. Like I said, it actually helps to press the button for zigzag to move to the zigzag stitch. Here we go. So I'm on the biggest, widest section that I have on my machine. Now, you can get these closer together. This is for demo. Taking that right down the middle. All right, now this one is a little harder to pick out. Like I said, this is where the clear stabilizer that you can cut away works really good. Actually, I'm just going to trim that away because I don't want to fuss with those stitches right now. And as always, I lost my scissors again because I always lose my scissors. I need like 42 pairs because otherwise I lose my scissors. The water-soluble stabilizer is like my favorite because I can just spritz that with water. The water-soluble stabilizers are really cool because they're made out of cornstarch. And so, like, you literally just do it with the water. Yes, this will be up for replay. So there's our stitch in the back. And you can see it does have a little bit of play in there because this is a wide zigzag stitch. Now, what else could I have done to make this better? Well, I could have put another piece of fabric under here, and that would have really helped because that would have stabilized that just a wee bit more, and that wouldn't have added any thickness at all. So I could have just taken a plain piece of cotton, popped that on, and then sewed that zigzag down, and it would have definitely helped secure that seam. So when you're thinking about this stuff, what you're thinking about is, how can I utilize my fabric as a stabilization agent for my foam? And once you do that, it becomes super easy, and making foam stuff is not so scary. Now, here's another tip. You can use sewing patterns as foam patterns. Who said you can't, right? So there's my front, and there's my back. Like I said, there is a little play here, but I probably would stabilize that more. So I use foam clay, actually, for over my foam, because foam clay is like Play-Doh. It's so fun to work with. And SKS also sells foam clay. There's foam clay all over the place. It is definitely better than the kids, what do they call it? The magic clay or whatever that they sell for kids. It is a lot less brittle, so it'll have some play to it. And so that's what I use for sculpting in foam. Another really good tip is when you're trying to get it out of molds, put it in the freezer. You can freeze it it'll freeze and thaw just completely fine. So I put it in the freezer, and then, 20, 30, 40 minutes, however long it takes, because if it's a thick thing, just shove it into the mold, put it in the freezer, bring it back out, and you're good. Oh yeah, foam clay, just Google foam clay. It is EVA foam in clay form. you can, now here's a cool one, and this one's going to be really fun because at some point I want to do a armored Vanellope, Princess Vanellope from Wreck-It Ralph, and you can actually make the foam thin enough with water. Yeah, it dries into foam that you can put it through a piping bag. So I want to be able to pipe like all the piping in, you know, so yeah, I could have clicked that. Yeah, the 3-step or 2-step zigzag. I could have pressed that. Like I said, honestly, I think your best bet too is, no matter which stitch you're using, is to add a wee bit of fabric down at the back side here. Just helps, you know, it won't hurt. So yeah, any other questions? Because I am happy to answer, and I have 10 more minutes left. Yeah, so thank you so much, and this will stay live. And in a couple hours, 3 o'clock my time, so an hour and a bit from now, I have another demo on how to use Adobe Illustrator to draft patterns. I'm going to be drafting an Edwardian all-in-one corset cover, but the concept is the same no matter what you're using. And yeah, if you look on my channel, I recently had another one on how to scan patterns. So if you have paper patterns that you've made and you want to get those, you know, into the computer digitized, I have one there. Curved seams are not too bad. You just go slow. The trick is you have to have that paper on top. If you're doing curved seams, I would definitely get some clear stabilizer. The boning channels, so they're done 2 ways. Let me move this machine out of the way here. All right. So the boning channels, 2 ways. This boning channel is made by overlapping the foam the way we did here, but instead of sewing down the middle, I've sewn on one side here and one side there so that I leave a space. So I've left a really wide, it's probably good, close to 1 inch. You can see that inside there. Seam allowance. Yeah, I'm running over. We could not stop talking yesterday. It was all good stuff though. So I've done it that way. The other way is I've taken foam, a single layer that, you know, I've stabilized with fabric. Now, because you can kind of see on the edges of these, it might help to use a fabric that's the same color as your final. You know, that works too. And I've literally just sewn 2 channels down on each one, you know, two lines down on each side, and that's in there so you can see from the inside. That's where that's smooth. So that's those center front boning channels. Now in this corset, by the way, this is super cheap Ridgeline foam. And so what I've done is just, this was a test, like I said, to use that. And it works really well. Normally, I would say that garbage Ridgeline foam, like, oh my God, don't ever touch it. If you have any at home, this is great for it because the foam itself has its own structure to it. So it's really not that bad. And when you heat the foam, so another cool thing is because this is foam and we can heat it, though that plastic will mold alongside that foam. And you can really get in, you can see, you can get in some really pretty curves in here. So part of this is the panel, the actual shape of the panel, and part of this is the fact that I have molded this using heat. You can do it on a dress form, you can do it on whatever. Yeah, and by the way, you can do this with same thing with leather or pleather on regular corsets where you just have a single thing going down like that. So you know what? It's not too bad to wear. I don't wear anything like this without something under it. Now, my Shira got really rough to wear because, not because it was foam, but because I had so much work that I had on the front that by the time I got to wear it, it consumed more room than I thought. And so it actually shrunk the size of the chest area down. So that's kind of like, that was eh. So to do that, what I did is I took a flat, the boning, or the binding up on top here, I took a flat piece like this, put it down like this and sewed it, and then folded it over and glued it. And yeah, you can totally use a zipper in the foam. I would probably fuse in a little heavier fabric than just a cotton in there where the zipper's going, but yeah, you can use the same technique. The trick is, you know, get some fabric behind there and you can use your zipper in that foam. It wouldn't hurt when you're putting a zipper in, like I said, to glue in, to run a line of glue down your stitches, just as a little, you know, actually. So the foam clay will not dry out as long as you keep it airtight. So I keep mine in a Ziploc bag. If you're really wanting to be crazy, you can like double Ziploc it. But yeah, I just Ziploc bag it. That's how we kept my kids' clay for years. So yeah, we just Ziploc bag everything. And these grommets are put in, or these, yeah, these grommets are put in just like a standard grommet is. There is boning here right inside that channel that's holding those in. So that's what's keeping these from pulling, just like they would in fabric. And I do have this doubled here. So that foam is folded over and then sewn here with a line of boning here, and then that's where all these holes are put into it. Yeah. So I just use super glue. So I have super glue always everywhere. So I just use super glue. And you don't even have to like go crazy. You can just hit it right on the edge and just super glue it down. I mean, if you really want to be like super foam smithy, you know, you can always use the contact cement and all that super stuff. So, you know, that's all the foam stuffy stuff, like that works. From years ago, it dried out and cracked. No, this foam will not do the same thing where it dries out and cracks if you have stored it, you know, reasonably well. This is a completely new formula of foam, so they worked for a really long time to make a new formula that would be more functional. So, yes, thank you, Karina. Like, you've been awesome. So, yeah, so you would prime and seal it. So you would heat seal, and then you would prime it, and then you would paint it. Now, I actually thought this was pretty cool because it looked like leather. So I actually didn't do any of the heat sealing. So I just put straight acrylic on here. Like I said, I let this stick to some other props, so it got put in a pile, and there's no actual like final clear coat on this, which is the problem. And so I would definitely clear coat and do all the good stuff. But here's what's cool. Check this out. See? That foam. This foam is good stuff. Like, it barely shows any signs of problems here. Now, you'll get a little bit of lines here, but whenever it's fully boned, okay, waist reduction. I would do only small waist reduction in a foam corset, just because I haven't tried doing one yet with like real waist reduction. I fit mine to where it might bring me down an inch, which is, you know, not really much for a corset. So I kind of view these as more of the visual. I guess if you wanted to, you know, you could always put this over something that's actually really giving you shape. If you needed some big reduction, I would probably say reduce yourself with your corset first and then build something to put on top of it, because then that way you have reusability. And you can also add in a layer. Somebody asked earlier about how bad it is to wear. You can add in a layer of cotton, you know, some sort of lining that you can take in and out. Like I said, I don't wear any of these next to my skin. Even in my Shira, I wear like a spaghetti strap cami, and then I just get it all on, and then I tuck the cami inside. So, yeah, that's my lining, right? So, all right. Well, we are right almost at time. So, if there's any other questions, feel free to drop them in. This is going to stay up and stay on here so you guys can come back and refer to this. And also, I just had, tomorrow, I have a class that is talking about my new book on project planning. It is on sale this weekend for $10. It is epic. You can go in. It is a complete guide to project planning for any kind of sewn project. Super, super fun. And so take a look at that. You can go to hit my website is cosplaysewing.com. And oh, badge. Oh, I almost forgot. Sorry. Give me just a second here. I might take me a minute because I have to go into my Google Drive and grab my badge. Give me just 1 second here. I almost forgot. So we can talk amongst ourselves while I figure this out. I put my badge on my other computer. So let me go in here to Drive and grab the badge. Yeah, bone, you know what? You can't add too much boning, right? Like The solution for everything in a corset is boning. That's my deal. Just keep adding. Oh yeah, Halloween this year should be epic. I figure we're just going to go walk everywhere. My husband and I are both cosplayers, and so are my kids. And so we're like, yeah, we're just going to go like walking in neighborhoods like for the next 3 weeks before Halloween, just so that we can show off, you know, anything we can to show off. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Like I said, if, you know, subscribe, do all the good things. I am here for questions. I love questions. I will always answer them. All right, let me find my little doohickey here. The claim code, there we go. And let me download that. Come on, you. Download, there we go. Here, I'm so close. Almost there. I forgot to download this to my streaming computer. All right, and let me share this real quick. I'm just going to have to add a display capture. Right. Oh. Okay, here we go. Now we have here. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully Badgecraft isn't broken. And I really appreciate everybody coming out and watching this. You guys had great questions, and I would love to see what you have made with foam. All right, here we go. Oh.